So this video is going to be looking at the section of Suetonius which describes the accession of Nero after Claudius's death. So this section of Suetonius is going to sort of talk us through his initial actions, but also gives you a bit of an insight into what was important to Nero on a personal level, not necessarily on the rule of the empire. So the first thing we can highlight is the fact that he promised to model his rule on the principles laid down by Augustus. So he's going to follow in Augustus's footsteps, similar to what Claudius has done. Obviously keeping in mind that all the emperors said this, and they did all turn out as good, but that's what he's going to suggest he's going to do. We can also have an insight into the parts of society he seems to find most important. So never miss an opportunity of being generous or merciful. Fine. He lowered if he could not abolish some heavier taxes, so we have an administrative change straight away, which will be useful later. It talks about reducing some fees for a particular law. He presented the plebs with 40 gold pieces each, so again, keeping sure the plebs are happy, but also ensures that senators, so those who were very poor because of debts, etc., that he settled an annual salary on them, so it enables them to stay within the Senate. He gives part of the army free issue of grain, so you can see kind of how he's trying to keep everybody happy. Money for the plebs, reduce the taxes, help really struggling senators, and keep the army happy. So like the triad of things that are really important for any emperor. It also talks about in here, which I haven't highlighted, the fact that he doesn't particularly want to execute people. Okay, makes a change, I guess. And he's also acting quite Augustus-like. When the Senate passed the vote, or thanks to him, he says, wait till I deserve it. So he doesn't seem to be expecting honours and titles, etc., just because he's emperor. He seems to be acting like he should deserve them before he's given them. So then we have this really weird section of Suetonius that talks about the fact he really likes music, which is nice. It becomes relevant a little bit later. So it talks about here, as I haven't highlighted, the fact that he really likes music, he really likes singing, and he does lots of practice, and he has really weird ways of practicing, like putting like stones on himself, etc., to weigh down his chest or something, I don't know. He likes appearing on stage, and he's applauded for it. Now, as an emperor, to be honest, he shouldn't really be going on stage and performing with people. It's a bit weird. So that's probably why this section of Suetonius is put in by the exam board. But you can make a reference to it, that it does seem to be his particular interest. Fine. He does promote the equestrians, so he chooses some young knights, which he divides into groups to learn this particular way of applauding. I guess it's different from clapping. I don't know, don't ask me. And those who do this are then rewarded with some money when they give a performance of this particular type of clapping. So we have the promotion of the equestrians as well. Fine. What we do have is the fact that he seems to be more interested in performing than necessarily running the state as it should be, which is why this becomes relevant. So appearances Rome meant so much to Nero. He held these sort of festival again before the required 5 years elapsed. So he ensured that this festival was held in order for him to perform. So he goes on stage and he sings. And supposedly he has a very nice voice. I should say voice, I just spotted. Typo. Fine. And he also starts competing as a lyre player, which again is not really what an emperor should be doing. It shouldn't be his focus. But I guess it's keeping him out of trouble, which is positive. Makes continued frequent appearances. He decides that he might want to be an actor. He's certainly not focusing on the day-to-day running of the state. So this could show some evidence about maybe the Senate's gaining some power back, because they're the ones kind of relied on to actually making sure the city is running itself, because he doesn't seem particularly interested. He's certainly acting very differently from like Claudius, who was quite serious and studious and all the rest of it. But Nero is a lot younger. We also get from Suetonius this section here the fact that he really likes horses, which is nice. So he likes singing, he likes acting, he likes horses, and he really wants sort of more horse races to occur. He starts to compete in some of the horse races. You're getting the impression of what he enjoys. He's kind of like a bit of a player, I guess. When there's not enough opportunity in Rome to do all these arts like singing and lyre playing and horse racing, he goes to Greece instead to do it. And he sort of says they have to be reheld if he's sort of isn't there on time, so they have to repeat these festivals to allow him to perform. And then his freedman reminds him he's urgently needed at Rome. He would not be distracted by official business. So he literally has no interest in the running of the state, according to this section of Suetonius. He also makes sure that no one can leave the theatre when he's doing the recitals, no matter what happens. So there's sort of some quite amusing little anecdotes in here. So like women were giving birth in the audience, that men had basically fainted at the back because they were so bored. People were dying, and they were only at that point were they allowed to leave. And it talked about how he was like really stage frighty and was a bit difficult, and he expected to win but didn't really expect to win. And it's just like a really weird section of Suetonius, to be honest. Then we have a change in behaviour. So we see here it goes from 23 to 26. So something sort of starts to shift in Nero, and more of his interests, I guess, start to appear. So it might be possible to excuse his insolent, lustful, extravagant, greedy, or cruel practices. So these start to increase. And this is saying, as boys will be boys, but actually this is just Nero's behaviour completely. So then we have this very odd behaviour. So at night he would sort of dress up and go to the taverns, or he would go around the streets and he would attack people, like stab them, and then throw their dead bodies into the sewers. He would molest women, and the senator caught him and nearly killed him without realising who he was. And this means he then has to have kind of like a guard to come with him at a distance to allow him to sneak out and just do these ridiculous things. And according to Suetonius, gradually Nero's vices gained the upper hand. Now, there is a couple of reasons why this seems to happen. One, his mother dies, which we'll talk about in the next video. But also, there is a conspiracy where, it's linked. One of his key personal tutors is accused of being in on the conspiracy, and his tutor, which was Seneca, seemed to be able to control some of the worst of his behaviour. And same with his mother. So once these two people went, killed, there is nobody there to kind of check Nero's behaviour anymore, and that's when things start to really go wrong. And Suetonius gives a couple of examples. So he has really long feasts. He likes to drain a massive lake to hold dinner parties. It's really extravagant behaviour, and this behaviour will only get worse as his reign continues.